Hey everyone.
Hi.
Just getting ready, hoping the live stream is up. Henry, can you check for me that the live stream is up and running? I just put the
Yes, I will do that right now.
okay. I put the link in the Slack.
Yeah, I just looked. It's running right now. I can see myself.
Awesome. All right. Well, welcome everyone to the second town hall of the 2024-2025 e-board elections. Um, for this town hall, we're gonna have candidates ask each other questions. We're gonna go in the same order, from chair to vice chair to communications to programs to development director candidates. Um, the way this is going to work is each person is going to get 3 minutes to answer the question they're given, and that includes their introduction. Henry's going to be keeping track of that time, so you can look to him for a signal at 1 minute, a signal at 2 minutes, and a signal of 10-second countdown at 3 minutes. And after that, he'll verbally stop you if you haven't already stopped. Um, so yeah, any questions before we begin? No? Awesome. Henry, you ready?
I'm all good.
Okay, with that, we'll get started with our first chair candidate, Hannah. All right. Anybody who has a question for Hannah, please raise their hand. All right, the first hand I see is Matthew. So Matthew, you may ask the question. Sorry, Jennifer.
Thank you. So Hannah, as programs director, how will that experience help you as chair?
Yeah, for sure. Do we need to do intros again, Neil? Or
Up to you.
okay. Hi y'all, I'm Hannah. Back again with y'all. I'm seeing some new faces. That's fine. That's fun. Okay, so to your question. Um, it's been great working with you on programs team this year. I'm guessing that's kind of the angle you're getting at right now. But yeah, so serving as programs director this year, as many of you already know, like during our conversations and on my social media, I've been able to plan and spearhead different initiatives and projects. For example, I spearheaded task forces. That was a really big part of my platform last year when I was running for programs director. So I hope that shows like follow through. And because of programs that I was able to implement this year, we were able to really hit a record number of membership numbers. So it's kind of talking more deeply into them, like for task forces, I believe, I was able to implement, I think I was around six, including like school safety, anti-gerrymandering. Thanks, Henry. Okay. So yeah, those were able to engage a new demographic of HSDA members that didn't really have a place within like local chapters because, for example, their school may not allow like politics-based clubs. So we were able to find like a new community for those people through those task forces, which I hope to carry on to next year, working closely with the programs director. And then for HSDA Academy, we were able to reach 80 plus members, which is super duper exciting. And that came out of a conversation with the Adult Advisory Board, which I already have connections with. That'll be really great for next year. So hopefully we can continue that into next year as well. And I have really fun new ideas to further boost our membership numbers, but on a new level as chair next year that I really hope to bring to HSDA. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. But yeah, I think my connections with like AEB and different, people I've met throughout my term this year will also prove as a head start next year. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Hannah. The next person on our list is Evan. Evan, are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right. Anybody who has a question for Evan, please raise your hand. All right. Suri, you can ask your question.
Hi, okay, so do I give my intro first or do I just directly ask Evan the
You
question?
just ask your question because
Okay,
you had to give it
awesome.
in order.
Okay, so I just wanted to quickly ask, so after I read your platform, I wanted to ask what specific measures will you implement to ensure that diverse voices within HSDA are heard and integrated into the organization's decision-making processes? Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I'll introduce myself again. My name is Evan Lawton, and I'm the state chair of the South Carolina High School Democrats. And I'm really excited to get this question. I think that there were some issues this last year with people feeling that HSDA was not properly representing the voices of its members in some of its communications. And so I think that going into this next term, that's going to be a really big issue for all different candidates. But I think as chair, there are specific measures that I would be able to take that would help to combat this. One of the pillars of my platform focuses on communication, and I believe that as chair, I would have the ability to create a communications commission. And what this commission would do is it would bring together caucus leaders as well as other members of HSDA, like local chapter leaders, to help develop our messaging strategy. And what I mean by this is that whenever HSDA wants to speak on an issue, whenever they want to put out a press release, I think that it's important that more voices are consulted than just the communications director. While obviously I think that the communications director plays an important role in pushing out those messages, I do think it's important that we consult as many people as we can before making those decisions. So an example of how we could do that is through the Communications Commission. And I think that this would be incredibly beneficial going into 2024. And in addition to putting out HSDA's own press releases and information, I think that this would allow us a place to connect with the DNC. I think that by showing that HSDA is willing to have those conversations on messaging strategy, I believe that a communications commission would help to connect HSDA and the DNC better on the issue of messaging. I think that there has been a clear disconnect in the past between HSDA's diverse voices and those that are found in the DNC. And so I believe that a communications commission is just one of the ways that we could help to bridge that gap. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Evan. Next up, we have Caitlin. Is Caitlin here with us? Nope. Okay. Then we're going to move to Victor. Is Victor here?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Anyone who has a question for Victor, please raise their hand. All right. Cal, I see your hand. So you may ask the question.
Okay. Hi, I was just wondering how you plan on like helping out certain states that might not have as big of an HSDA program, like ones that, where their state just doesn't have a lot of support.
Thank you so much. And that's a very great question that I've talked with so many people about. But quick introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Victor Hinojosa. I am a rising senior this year at the Waukegan High School in the Great Prairie State of Illinois. I am the co-chair of the Illinois High School Democrats, the chair of the LGBTQ caucus, and the co-Midwest Regional Director for this school year. So back to your question. I would say that the biggest thing that I've noticed so far is that a lot of the places that HSDA isn't in is in rural and red states in general, right? And that's just the basis of that, right? That we see that in these Republican red areas, there's not a lot of people that are democratically or progressively minded. And it's difficult to reach places like that, right? That we don't have the connections nor a strong enough Democratic Party in that state to really reach through them. And I feel like that shouldn't be the case. We should be able to reach to these students that care about progressive politics, that care about the future of their country through that progressive light, or just in general, creating civically minded leaders for America, which is something that I also think about of the HSDA, not just being a political machine, but also being a civics and legislative aspect for the use of America. I talked a lot about in one of my platforms about having a state and local chapters commission that has specific action people, something that we do in the ROTC, that we have people that are specific to each item or each idea or programming or any type of operations to come and tell us what we need to do. Because at the end of the day, I could talk about rural areas, I could talk about red states, but these are the people that live there. They're the ones that actually know what's happening and what they need. I could say one thing, but they know more than me. And we should be bringing these people in to talk about the issues that they have and tell us what bylaw amendments do they need, what funding do they need, what program do they need, what connections within the DNC do they need, and how can we connect them with their state parties to rebuild that blue aspect of their state. That is something that I really wanted to bring together within the HSDA. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Victor. Next up, we have Daniel. Is Daniel here?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Awesome. Does anyone have a question for Daniel? All right. Oh, Suri, I saw your hand first.
Okay, thank you. So hi Daniel, I just wanted to ask, what specific Okay, sorry. What specific initiatives will you implement to encourage more bipartisanship and reduce the polarization within the political landscape right now? So particularly among like high school students involved in HSTA.
Yes, thank you, Suri, for your question. I want to start off by saying I'm Daniel Patterson. I currently have the honor and the privilege of serving as North Carolina State President. I'm going on just starting my second term in February. When I first took charge of this organization, we only had 2 local chapters. We now have 20 because of the work that we've done there. A local candidate for Durham City Council has reached out to our board and has worked with me, and we have raised $28,000 in under 3 months for her political campaign. My proudest accomplishment is making sure that our North Carolina members have opportunities. And I don't just, have a big talk, I mean what I say. And that's why I worked hard to make sure we had Teen Democrats working the polls for some amazing municipal candidates last November for $15 an hour. Because of the state presence that our members, because of the presence that our organization has had in our state, we have had our Teen Dems meet Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, and Bernie Sanders. And I say that because one thing I've talked to a lot of you all about is that you guys feel that some of the best opportunities are only exclusive to a few members on the executive board. It has always been my goal to make sure that we're expanding these opportunities to every single member that's a part of our organization and not just a select few. Some initiatives that I will take to kind of build a more bipartisan environment within HSCA and the high schools across the country is, sitting down and talking to people. And with that, let's educate people about what's at stake when Democrats are not in office and Republicans are in office. For many of us, it's making sure our public school system is well funded. For many of us, it's making sure that our reproductive rights and our sister or our mother or aunt's reproductive rights are safe. And for some of us, it's making sure that we just have clean water to drink. And just having those conversations and making sure that we're talking to each other and educating each other about what's at stake when we don't mobilize and we don't organize and we don't raise the money to get Democrats elected. I plan on doing this by creating a group amongst HSCA members that focuses once again on swing state and red state support. I am currently the state president of a swing state. North Carolina, we lost for Joe Biden 1.3%, the smallest margin of error across the country of all 50 states. So I know what it takes. I've seen our state party tweak their strategy to make sure we're engaging voters. I know what it takes to win elections and to raise money, which will make members too.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel. Next up, we have Samad. Are you here and ready?
Yeah. Hi.
Right. All right. Marcus, you may ask your question.
Hi, my question is just what steps will you take to improve interconnectedness between state chapters?
Between state chapters and other state chapters, or like state chapters and national?
Oh, between state chapters and other state chapters.
Okay, sure. Hi, my name is Samad Qureshi. I'm currently the chair of Virginia. And I think that's a good question because a lot of the states that I've seen currently right now are functioning kind of as their own entities. Like, I know North Carolina has done some great work. I know the chair of Maryland is on here as well. I mean, I live in Virginia, but it's as if that each of these states are their own separate entities and we all have different processes. We all do different things. We host different events. And I think part of that is what makes us unique because we can customize to each of our region. But as chair, I'd love to see some of the more regional summits and meetups in person because I think that could help out a lot. I think it also helps to have nearby states connected as well, just connecting local leadership. And I think a great way to do it would just be through perhaps bi-weekly calls with members around your own region. If it's the Northeast region, you can connect with the other state chairs from there. There's currently the National Committee, which is where every state chair and usually the vice chair, along with the caucus, all the caucus chairs come together. But I think that during the NACOM, it's such a big group of people that you can't really connect with people one-on-one. So I definitely love to see more in-person events at the regional scale and also virtual events to make other state chapters get to know each other better. And I think that just encouraging the states is all you can do, because as national, we can't really tell what the states to do, but we can certainly encourage it. We can host events, we can put resources out there, but at the end of the day, it's up to the state leaders to determine what they want to do. But I'd certainly encourage it more with state leaders, and I'd be willing to have those conversations with them and just say, hey, Virginia and Maryland, I think you guys could work great together. Maybe as chair, I could set them up and pair them together, because not everything has to be just events. A lot of it can simply be creating a group chat and connecting two people, and then they can go from there. Yeah, that's pretty much how I do it. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. Next, we have Blake. Blake, are you here and ready?
Oh yes, I'm all ready. Yes.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Blake? All right, Isham, I see your hand, so you can go ahead.
Yeah, what's up, Blake? So as part of being a chair, a big responsibility is being able to oversee HSDA and help out a lot of its membership. So my question to you is, how can you ensure that every new member that joins is taken care of and has like the accurate opportunities that are available to them?
Great question. Great question. Well, first off, as I've said before, when you bring in new members, you have to first see exactly what they're looking for and what they want to see. Listen to them instead of me pushing what I want them to do. And once I open up that line of communication and see what they like and figure out what they want to do, when you bring in new people, just like how the United States was formed, bold ideas, really, when you put them into retrospect, can make up a whole new vision. And that's what I like, is vision and ideas. And to go back to your question firsthand, what I would do to make them more comfortable or more happy is to tell them that their ideas are heard and cherished. Yes. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake.
Of
Next
course.
we have Will. Is Will here with us?
I am, yep.
Does anyone have a question for Will? All right, Suri, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Will. Okay, I just have a quick question. So, how will you ensure that the increased communication between state leaders, caucus leaders, and the e-board translates into effective support and empowerment for HSDA members at the grassroots level?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Will from Eglich. I had the honor of being the state chair of Maryland over the last year. And to answer your question, I think the important word in there is grassroots members. So we're talking about like our local chapters, our local chapter leaders, and then even like members of local chapters. So I know in Maryland, when I picked up the job of state chair, we had, essentially the branch was, there was nothing left, that we had 2 or 3 people. We're up to just over like 200 now. And part of that is that I was given a lot of power by my regional director and then by people like Henry and Annika and our executive board. And I was given power to sort of innovate and come up with creative ways and come up with events to find these people, to find local chapters. And if I was elected chair, I would sort of follow that legacy. So I would be interested in going after things like executive members staying after NatCom meetings to talk with state chairs, and then also sort of taking on more of like a mentor role as someone who was a state chair, a state chair. I know what it's like to be in that situation, to have a chapter that doesn't necessarily have as many people. And I know what it's like to sort of work your way up. So I would be interested in working with people. I would be interested in having all our executive team members meeting with individual state chairs to seriously like address and understand their concerns. I think state chairs and caucus leaders are some of the most important people in HSDA. They really make up what HSDA is. So I'd be very interested in like developing and working with them. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes all of our chair candidates, and we'll be moving right to the vice chair candidates, starting off with Marcus. Marcus, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
All right. Who has a question for Marcus? All right, Amanda, I see your hand, so go ahead and ask your question.
How do you plan on expanding HSDA in more social, like rural areas?
That's a great question. So my name's Marcus Emanuel, and I'm running for vice chair of HSDA. I also serve as the high school coordinator of Harris County Young Democrats. So essentially, my plan for expanding to more rural areas, that's what your question was entailing, correct? Would basically be like starting off raising our social media presence. So I'd probably delegate this task more to, or first I'd talk to the chair about it, and then I'd probably delegate this task more to like the communication director, essentially like raising our social media presence so we're able to access further areas, since obviously like networking online is one of the best ways to do this. So probably that. Also making our website more accessible, and then also making the amount of opportunities within the organization essentially just more for people to see, because I think this organization has amazing opportunities. When I first joined, one thing that I thought was incredible was the amount of opportunities that was in the external opportunities chat of the Slack. So essentially just making it to where people are knowledgeable of these opportunities without having to join the Slack. So we'd essentially do this by also sending them out more on our social media and more on our website. So kind of just having a larger social media presence, and then also advertising the fact, and this is a large part of my campaign, that we're not only going to hook you up with opportunities, but we're also going to hook you up with the level of, or with the education needed in order to get into advocating for policy. Because one thing that I see is that a lot of people want to advocate for specific policies, but they don't actually know what pertains to the policy that they're advocating for. So having essentially like workshops or tutoring sessions, for lack of better terms, to not only make it to where members are going and advocating, but also are knowledgeable on what they're advocating for and on our government in general, would also be an amazing thing to advertise to these like rural areas, so they'd be more interested in joining, and so we'd be able to expand to them easier. I apologize. So that would be my answer essentially.
Thank you, Marcus. Next up, we have Nandini. Is she here with us? No? Okay. Then we're going to move on to Suri. Suri, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Anyone who has a question for... Sorry, that was my Siri. Anyone who have a question for Suri? Okay, Olivia. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Hey, Suri. So I feel like a lot of the vice chair candidates have overlapping points. So I just wanted to ask, like, what makes your campaign unique? What is something that you're doing that sets you apart from other candidates?
Awesome. Thank you for the question. So hi, everyone. My name is Suri Yang. I currently serve as the Southwest Regional Director, and I'm the CEO of HS Date, the world's first HSDA dating profile where you can find exactly why you should swipe right and vote Yang for the gang. So to answer your question, what makes my campaign really unique? Okay, so I would say it's a mix of 3 points. So first of all, the time, the passion, and my understanding of the role of vice chair. So I'll start off with time. I think it's such an underrated thing to talk about because right now, currently as a rising senior, we need to understand that coming into this role, you have to have the time. And that's a guarantee from me that HSDA will be my first and foremost priority. Second of all, passion. Coming into this role, I think a lot of people can say that they can dedicate a lot of time, but the passion that they bring really is going to be the motivator and the strive for change that I want to see in HSDA. And so, I do want to emphasize that a lot of my ideas in my platform currently are things that I've kind of collected over the years that, you know, what HSCA members want. And so for me, you can get a guarantee that I will put all of these ideas into action and make promises to you that this is, you know, not just things that you put on paper and not take action to. And then lastly, talking about the overall role in general, what I like to say a lot is that, you know, this role is very much creating change to create support, right? The two biggest terms are support and change. And so I will definitely strive to bring that on any aspect of HSCA that you guys might have, you know, a couple of, you know, improvements that you want to see. So whether it's talking about rural outreach, I mentioned that a lot in my platform, specifically talking about the ways that I plan to bring all of my ideas into action, such as creating, you know, an even more targeted approach to these rural communities through the Rural Outreach Commission, and overall just seeing to my job as to support every single member, because at the end of the day, you guys are the future. And I solely believe that this role as vice chair is an opportunity for you guys to get the most support that you can get and make sure that, you know, you're looking for the change that you're gonna get. And so I would just say, lastly, to wrap things up, so vote Yang for the gang, and I highly encourage you guys to all take a chance, because I know the exact changes that I will bring. Thank you.
Thank you, Suri. Next up, we have Olivia. Olivia, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, and it looks like Aji has a question for you.
Hey, Olivia. How are you as vice chair going to work on increasing the intersectionality between obviously various identities and HSDA and democratic politics through more than just caucuses? I don't know if that makes sense.
So to start off with, hey everyone, I'm Olivia Morant, and I'm currently the Louisiana State Chair. And there's so much that we can do to increase to embrace intersectionality. And the biggest component of that is going to be inclusion, because that's very broad, but you know, I'm going to break it down into specific points, because there's a lot of work that we can do with that. The first thing that we need to do is expand language accessibility, because some people would support us, but they don't necessarily understand what we're saying, or even if they're proficient in English, for instance, like tone and connotation are things to consider, things that just translating it yourself, like with Google Translate, just can't do. And I love leading by example. So all my campaign material has been available in both languages. And I've also expanded that to the state of Louisiana. And that just goes to show that if one person can do it, we can definitely do that as a national organization. We don't have to stop at just Spanish, but I'm only volunteering my services for that because I don't know other languages. And then the second point is about engaging our red states. So I come from a red state, and specifically where I go to school, where I spend most of my time, because I do go to school like 4 hours away from where I live, they don't care about politics. Like they could not care less. They're not even Trump supporters, they just don't care. And so sometimes it can be difficult and even frustrating to try to stay engaged. And if we want to support our communities, and that includes our identity and our regional communities, we have to make sure that people have things to do. And so as a queer person living in a red state, I've worked as a local HSCA leader with our GSA club, because our activism doesn't have to stop at policy or getting candidates into office. It's also just about the impact that we make on our community. So one thing that we've done is community service. We have run clothing drives so people can get gender affirming clothes, because we have a lot of trans students at our school who are not necessarily out. So it's just things that we can do to make it so that everybody gets their chance to stay active. And yeah, like there's so much that we can do that's not just necessarily voter registration drives, even though we should totally do that because that's very important. So yeah, that's just what I'm trying to get at. There's so much that we can do. See where like regional identities meet identity communities, make sure that we're supporting them always. And I hope that made sense and answered your question.
Thanks, Olivia. Next up, we have Isham. Isham, are you ready?
Hey, yeah.
All right, anyone who has a question for him can raise their hand. All right, Almadine, I see your hand first, so.
Hey, Isham. My question is, you know, everybody talks about expanding HSDA, but how do you plan on retaining local chapters and current members of HSDA while also expanding the organization?
Yeah, thanks, Almadina. That's a wonderful question. Before I get into that, I just want to kind of introduce myself to anyone who might not know me. My name is Isham Batad. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm the vice chair of the Illinois High School Democrats. I've served in HSDA for about 3 years now, at local, state, and national levels. So I'm pretty qualified, I'd like to think, and I really want to answer that question. So for those of you who know me and have seen the social media posts, my campaign is about 5 different E's: expansion, engagement, education, efficiency, and empowerment. Those, like your question, focuses on 2 of the big ones I care about: engagement and expansion. So the way I would go about actually making this change happen and making sure that we retain our local membership while also expanding our borders is through 2 different initiatives. First, as you've probably heard a lot throughout this election season, there's the 50+ plan. And the 50+ plan is something that this year's board sort of spearheaded, and I want to continue as vice chair. So the 50+ plan is making sure that we have an HSDA chapter, first and foremost, in every single state across this country. Because going into November 2023, it's super vital that that expansion happens. So I want to make that true. But I don't want to just do that at the expense of ignoring the membership we've already built and the local chapters that we have here at home. And so to make sure that these chapters are actually cared for, I'm going to also be increasing grant initiatives, be implementing more fundraising opportunities, and then also giving a more streamlined and direct access to communication for these local chapters. I talked about this a lot on my Instagram page, but I really want to give these chapters a voice and give them some sort of influence as to how they can talk to us, the executive board. And I think that's not something we see too much right now, and something I really want to put in place. So to value the membership we already have, I'm going to make sure that we have increased opportunities for fundraising, to connect with resources and connect with local representatives, but to expand past that, going into local districts, going to red and purple states, but most importantly, making sure that we're finishing up the 50+ plan, getting HSDA into every single state that we can, and really making this democratic mission as powerful as it can be. So yeah, hopefully that answered your question. I try to talk about all the points there, but yeah, thank you so much. And Isham with an E, vote me for VC. Sorry, I know it's a bit cringe.
Yeah, thank you, Isham. So for here on, Luke is going to be taking over with the timing in the same format that Henry was doing it. Thanks so much, Henry, for joining us. Next up we have Neil. Is Neil here with us?
Yes.
All right, are you ready?
Yes.
Anyone who has a question for Neil can go ahead and raise their hand. Okay, Olivia, I saw your hand first.
Hey, Neil. So we both come from a red area with a lot of rural areas. And so I just want to ask, how do you intend to support states like ours, but also just states in general? What do you plan to do to support the state chapters of HSDA?
For sure. Thank you for the question. To give a little background, my name is Neil Tandon. I'm a rising senior in Louisiana. I've been a member of HSDA since my freshman year. So I started through my local chapter with advocacy. And this year I've had the opportunity to serve as vice chair for my local chapter, vice chair of Louisiana's High School Democrats, and vice chair of the AAPI caucus. And a big thing about me is that I'm a progressive in a red state, and I understand and I've experienced that lack of support for chapters in red states. So I'm going to go a bit into my platform very specifically. And there is a lot of things that go into effectively sustaining our chapters. Firstly, I want to reinstate the position of Red State Director so we can lead initiatives in conservative regions, work closely with the task force director and the Red State Task Force to establish programs and provide individualized support for these red and swing states. The next part is also sustaining our local chapters. So part of my platform includes developing a dedicated team to assist in local chapter coordination through a task force. So this team would work in conjunction with state teams to identify and address any specific needs faced within states, namely those with interim chapters and red or swing states. And then next, there is a pretty big issue with rural support, especially in blue states. So it goes without saying, there are plenty of rural areas, even in blue states, that vote red due to the lack of emphasis and support given to these areas. So a big part of my platform is establishing a new position that focuses on supporting these underrepresented areas in our blue states. So they can, these communities can get those resources and be empowered to participate actively, even if they're a red area within these blue states. The next part of my platform is to connect state chapters to their state Democratic Party and ensure that they're officially recognized in decision-making processes. So as vice chair of Louisiana's chapter this year, we did not receive support or contact from Louisiana's Democratic Party. So if we truly want to empower the youth voice, we really need to make sure that that voice is reflected in state decision-making processes so that we can actually hold our officials accountable. The next part is I want to create a grant program to provide financial support to state and local chapter organizings. So a big concern that I've heard from local chapter leaders is not having that support to fund their initiatives. So I plan to make these grants available for specific purposes in organizing events, launching initiatives, or addressing any immediate financial needs. And then the other part of my platform is facilitating collaboration. So a big issue we faced this year was inactivity, both within states and caucuses. And I strongly believe that it's the responsibility of National HSTA to solve this issue. So the idea that I'm proposing is that we facilitate the creation of state or local caucus systems within states. So caucus initiatives are supported and diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives are supported at a grassroots level, even with the inactivity of caucuses nationally. And finally, I strongly believe in reforming our national committee. NatCom is literally supposed to function to represent the voices of states and caucuses, but we can't function that way if we never meet quorum. So what I propose is that we create an interim representative for both caucuses and states to fill in as a voting member during our meetings in the event that one or two representatives are not able to make that meeting. This way, we can ensure that resolutions actually have the chance to be voted on. So in general, I strongly believe in the 50+ state plan, but we also seriously need to strongly support, the existing chapter, the existing local initiatives that exist, because that's the only way we can effectively expand. Thank you for that question. And yeah, that's my answer.
Thanks, Neil. Next up, we have Ethan. Is Ethan here?
Yes.
All right. Anyone who has a question for Ethan? All right, Isham, you may ask your question.
Hey, Ethan. So my question is the position of vice chair is obviously super extensive. And so you need to be able to delegate really well going into a pretty rough year because we're all high schoolers as well. So how exactly do you imagine yourself delegating tasks, and how can you make sure that HSDA is still efficient under your candidacy?
Thank you for the question. And just to introduce myself a little bit, my name is Ethan Altamirano, and you should really vote for me. And now to your question. When I get a task, a project that I need to do as vice chair of HSDA, I can split them into categories. This would be more suited to the communications director, or this would be more suited to the certain member of NAT staff. And yeah, just organizing the tasks efficiently, and that everyone knows what category of tasks they do and things like that to make HSDA more efficient and to effectively delegate tasks. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Anae. Is Anae here?
Hi, yes, I am here.
Anyone with a question for Anae? Okay, Amanda, you may ask your question.
Oh, hi, Anae. So my question is, how do you plan on increasing engagement in HSDA in all levels, both local, national, and statewide?
Yeah, thank you so much, Amanda. So hi, everyone. My name's Anae. I'm an incoming senior in high school from the greater San Diego area. But today I am in Tajikistan, where it is currently 4:09 a.m. Fun fact. But in terms of increasing the full engagement in all levels of HSDA, I want to heavily stress my partnership with Grassroots Democrats HQ and how we would be, as HSDA vice chair, I would be able to work with them to create more phone banks that all HSDA members can attend. This way they would get actual involvement into the core Senate races in Wisconsin, Arizona, as well as the swing House races, which, like Neil mentioned, are in blue states as well, including New York and California. And then at the local level, I would like to stress partnerships with local Democratic parties or other Democratic organizations that allow for in-person canvasses in these important districts, or even if they're not important at the national level. There is definitely one important race happening that is important for the progressive values that HSDA represents. And at the same time, at the state level, I say that states like California or New York should focus their attention on the swing districts within their state. And I would be working with the other members of the e-board to create a plan of like what different areas have to focus on, and then using phone banks or canvases or the other methods of grassroots engagement to get people to actually go for it and get involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Anthony. Is Anthony here? Nope. Okay. Then next we have Drew. Is Drew here?
I'm here.
Awesome. Anyone with a question? Okay, Matthew. Matthew, you may ask your question.
Hello. How will you ensure that HSDA is ready for the upcoming election and ready to win down the ballot?
Thank you so much. For everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Drew Sora. I'm a rising senior from Long Island, New York. So actually, I guess I had a little advantage. A voter asked me that question today, so I feel very lucky now. So one of the things that I want to do to ensure a victory in the upcoming election and everything for 2024 in November is really, and a lot of people have hit on it today, and it's the truth, is really hitting those rural centers and even those swing districts in traditionally blue states. So here in New York, we are characterized as a blue state that not a lot of money is really put into, but the truth is we have a lot of swing districts that can really determine the state of the House this year. And that is incredibly important. And some argue that that is more important than the presidency. Not my opinion, but some argue that. So hitting those swing districts for the House is incredibly important. Obviously, people will say hitting the swing states for the Senate and hitting the swing states for the presidency. But what's really important is mobilizing there. So as some of you know, I wrote this on my campaign. It's on my platform for some of my past experience. I was a youth engagement director for a primary assembly campaign, and I was a recruitment coordinator for a congressional primary. So I was able to mobilize hundreds of people to get out, canvass, and work for these candidates. And using that experience on a national level and really connecting with state chairs to ensure that they're continuing their own responsibilities too. So ensuring that state chairs are mobilizing these people as well and asking them how the e-board can help is incredibly important, because state chairs need to know that they're supported by us. Their actions, what they're doing, how they're working, and how they're mobilizing young people to get out, they're supported by the e-board, and we'll do whatever we can to get out there to help them and make sure that they can really mobilize those people who get out to the doors, get out to the phones, and really make that difference when it comes to those swing states and those swing districts. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Drew. Next up, we have Christopher. Is Christopher here?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions? All right, Suri, you may ask your question.
Okay, sorry, 1 second. Okay, so I just wanted to ask, how will you ensure that the initiatives under action, like the acronyms that you put in your platform, are implemented effectively, that each step in the progress approach is systematically allowed to achieve tangible results for HSDA members?
All right, thank you, sir, for that amazing question. Hi, everyone. I'm Christopher Lee, and I'm a rising senior from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm the legislative director for HSDA Nevada. But I think the most important thing that we can do as Democrats is just get our feet on the floor and actually focus on local campaigns. So actually right now I'm sitting outside of Congressman Horsford's office at a step out. We're doing phone bankings right now. But personally, I am super interested in the intersection between technology and policy and legislation and the democratic process as a whole. And to answer your question, I think the way that I can implement each step of my progress plan succinctly is through technology. I think HSDA heavily underuses technology, and that's not a bad thing, but I think that it can expedite the process and make each step more efficient. So in terms of my progress plan, we're talking about personalized state outreach. So this is the first step is developing a state support team, organizing regional meetings, and implementing membership programs. This is to empower the voices of each individual member in each individual state. And then next, we need to focus on resources for chapters, expanding the resources page and regular webinars and trainings. And this can all be done online. And like I was saying before, we need to utilize technology a lot more. So online networking is the O in my progress plan. We're going to develop an online onboarding system, which I'm already working on, organize virtual networking events. And then third is growth through feedback. So we're going to establish a standing committee, monthly state feedback, not through emails, but through a specific platform. We could do an HSDA Connect, or we could just use Slack, and decisions based on member feedback. So the decisions of NatCom should be based on specific member feedback from state to state. Now, lastly, we're going to talk about representation initiatives. So we're going to have frequent online meetings for inclusivity and organize awareness campaigns and provide support for action events. Through engagement and skill development and inclusive training programs, support for innovative projects, and strategic expansion, we as HSDA and NatCom can utilize technology and utilize because it's in the modern day, it's such a powerful tool, and HSDA is heavily underusing it. So we can secure affordable higher education and student rights, climate change and renewable energy, technology and privacy, inclusivity and mental health awareness, organize gun safety measures, and use sustainable solutions. But first, we need to figure out how to connect better as a whole membership, and that we can do through technology. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you, Chris. Next up, we have Jennifer. Jennifer, are you ready?
Yeah.
And it looks like Rishita has a question, so go ahead and ask that.
Hi, Jennifer. So my question is, I know it was brought up a lot today, but also on like your social media and your platform. How do you think rural outreach is going to benefit us in the upcoming election? Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Jen Yu, and I currently serve as the chair of the Women's Caucus. And the one thing that I've learned this year serving as chair is that NatCom really is one of the most diverse bodies of HSDA. And in order to make NatCom a more efficient body, we need to make it a more diverse body. And that really means including rural states that currently aren't being reached. So right now, NatCom consists of 2 leaders from each state, so the chair and the vice chair, and then the chair and the vice chair from each caucus. And what I've realized is that this brings really diverse voices to the amount of bylaws that we pass and the discussions that we have. But moving forward into the next year, a lot of the big challenges that we're going to be able to need to tackle is how do we make this body more representative of all of the high school Dems across America. And that includes the rural Dems that we haven't been reaching. And that really starts in 2 ways. First is really tackling rural outreach. So a lot of these Dems in rural areas often feel isolated because they're unable to reach the same amount of opportunities that urban Dems are able to reach. So today, I'm currently based in Boston, and I'm very grateful that I have a lot of the opportunities that a blue state can provide me to get involved in organizing and involved in politics. But not a lot of Dems that really want to get involved in rural states can. So my job as vice chair is to be able to give them those opportunities to not only connect and have a voice on NatCom, but also to get involved on a larger scale. So that leads into the second part of my platform, which really is using task forces as a way to elevate rural outreach and to elevate rural voices. So if we give these rural Dems the ability to join these task forces and really highlight the special interests they have. So for instance, if you're a Dem that's really into climate activism, I want you to be able to join the climate activism task force and to highlight the special abilities you have there to really elevate the amount of programs we as HSDA are able to produce. So it's in that way that I think HSDA will be able to create a more not only diverse body at NatCom, but also a more involved HSDA moving into the elections. So by highlighting those voices, highlighting those talents, we'll really create a national organization that's excited to come back. And I think task forces are important there because it gives them that specialized ability to do what matters to them most. Because in order to have members that are really excited to be part of our organization, they have to feel like they're doing work that matters to them. So if that means doing climate activism, then I want them to be able to do that. If that means fighting for abortion rights, in addition to joining the Women's Caucus, I want them to be able to join a task force that gives them the leverage to do that. So as a chair, I want to be someone that can not only give our members the space and the creativity to do what matters to them, but to give them the voice to really feel empowered and to feel like they have a say in the way that HSDA operates
and the future that the Democrats have in America, because this is their organization, and I want to be here to be a resource to them and to give them that space to be the great Dem that they are.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we have Nathan. Is Nathan here? Nope. All right. Then we have Anthony. Is Anthony here? No? Okay. Ronak.
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome. Looks like Johans has a question for you.
Hey everyone, I'm Johans. So Ronak, I was wondering, how will your prior experiences, how will you utilize your prior experiences, transforming into this position as high school Democrats vice chair? So how do you hope to capitalize on your prior experiences? So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question because I'm very, very passionate about what I've done within Georgia. So first, I'll just give an introduction. I'm Ronak Vyas, a rising senior. I attend Alpharetta High School in Alpharetta, Georgia, and I currently serve as a Georgia High School Democrat State Director. So under my leadership, Georgia High School Democrats has done a lot of things. We've tripled our membership. We've gotten our social media engagement up 600%. And one of the things I'm most proud of is we allow our members to comment on policies the board seeks to implement. So whether it's a new policy, new program, or whatever it may be, we look for our members and try to hear their insights on that. Because we have people around the state, and not all of them are represented on our board, and they don't interact with us every day. And we always want to give our kids the opportunity to speak on policies they see fit. So whether we're looking to implement a new fundraiser, a new event, kids can speak their mind on that, whether they like it or not, and give us suggestions before we implement it. And that goes into what I want to do as vice chair. So first, on the public comment thing, the first day I get into office, I want to give members the opportunity to come speak to me on an open call, share their ideas and suggestions for the year, and I will take those into account along with my fellow vice chair and the rest of the e-board to shape what we want to do throughout the year as a National High School Democrats of America Executive Board. And I also have a couple more things I want to do just based off my Georgia experiences. So within Georgia, we have a very, very strong link with our state party, and that enables us to do a lot of things, whether bringing very recognized political figures to events or get our fundraisers to actually function through the backing of Young Democrats or state Democratic Party. I want to implement this link between the state chairs of our high school Democrats organizations and our state party chairs to form that link where we can get political figures into events and overall just enhance the experience for members. And then secondly, within Georgia, we've had this opportunity for our volunteers to just express general interest in volunteering on political campaigns and other things of that sort. And on the other side of it, we have our candidates come to us and express their interest in getting volunteers from Georgia High School Democrats. And based on that, we launched a new plan this summer called the Summer of Action, where we advertise campaigns and promote volunteerism within them. So our volunteers, whether it be on Instagram, Slack, emails, they get to see that these candidates want help from the youth. And we provide that link. And that really helps our volunteers get out in the community and get what they want out of this organization, specifically volunteering in races around the state. And that's something I want to bring to the national level, whether it be by collecting volunteers' information and candidates' information and linking them together. This high school Democrats, I got into high school Democrats to volunteer, get involved in races in my community. And so that's one of the biggest things I want to do as vice chair. So remember, don't forget to vote for Ronak Vyas for vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Ed. Is Ed here?
Yep.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Ed? Suri.
Yes. Okay. So how do you plan to combat political apathy among students, especially in low-income schools, and foster an environment within HSCA that encourages active participation and belief in the potential for meaningful change?
Yeah, great question. Well, hey y'all, I'm Ed. I'm one of the West Regional Directors of HSDA National, and yeah. So kind of going off of what Suri said, it's like we really live in an age where people really are leaning towards one side, or they really just don't really want to get involved in politics, because most people are just like, ew, politics, everyone's so divided, and it really just doesn't build a good ground for us to really bring in those members who really didn't look at politics like something they might want to contribute to, or might even want to get involved in any single way. So the biggest way to do that is really start reaching out slowly, but like surely to these members, to these schools that might not necessarily be as politically involved or might be in more rural areas. Like, for instance, I'm from a really rural area in California. I know it's like a solid blue state, but it's like super rural. So what we did was we really tried to go head and first, starting a chapter in our school, but that didn't really work out the best for us. So we really try to move over to that community aspect. And that's something I really think if we start contacting, local Democratic parties across the country, making sure that we can form that bond with them and make sure that we can, support their local communities or local areas to make sure we can start building up chapters there, that might be able to foster a community where they don't necessarily focus on like pushing all of our democratic values, but they focus on making sure that they focus on their values of their area to make sure that they can be progressives in their own sense, not just what, the national thinks. That's the main point of what I want to do as vice chair, make sure everyone is supported to their own ability to make sure that they can have the best community they can in their local area. Because local areas are like the core of our organization. And if we don't support them for like to make sure they can hold their own events that are tailored to what they need as a local area, but making sure they have the support they need just to, survive as a chapter, hold their meetings. We're going to be crumbling as an organization. And I feel like moving in that direction to help, build those ties community-wise with those local parties rather than just focusing head-on with the state parties will create a stronger organization overall that will help bring in those members who don't necessarily look at politics as something they want to get directly involved in.
Thank you, Ed. Next up, we have Eric. Eric, are you here?
I'm here.
All right, anyone who has a question for Eric, please raise your hand. All right, I see Amanda's hand up.
Hi, Eric. I was wondering, how do you plan on improving on the diversity that's present in HSDA? Because even though, there's already a bunch of caucuses, there's still some underrepresented groups that aren't like really given a voice as of yet.
Well, first of all, my name is Eric Spraggins. I'm from Michigan. I'm the Oakland County Democratic Chair, and I also work for the Biden-Harris campaign. I first would like to say, Blake, what a wonderful suit you have on. You look very presidential. And to Hannah, Luke, and Neil, and all of the leadership who made the platform, it was amazing to read that, to really see the hard work that you've done. I really want to continue that if elected as vice chair. But to go into your question, I believe that as vice chair, it is very important that diversity plays a big role. And a lot of Democrats we are very diverse compared to the Republican Party, who seems to, just have white men in their caucus or within their party. But as Democrats, I believe that we also, within High School Democrats America, we can be working to have a caucus suggestions so that you can recommend what type of caucus that you think that we need within High School Democrats America. We are a fast-growing organization. And I believe that everyone's voices matters, but not only that every voice matters, that everyone's being represented to the fullest is also important to me. And so that is just one way that I go about it. I also think that state chapters can be taking a bigger role to also recognize some of the diversity that's in their area. I mean, I love the idea that someone stated about also having some local caucuses as well. In general, High School Democrat of America really needs to be able to open up the process to everyone. I think that's something that I'm vice chair. I believe that we as a youth organization need to open up to where all people are able to have a voice within this organization, and also are able to really do things that they think are necessary to do within this organization. I think that we should have regular town halls meetings within the people within our organization. I believe that regions should be meeting with their state chapters and maybe have a state leaders retreat and talking to the different chairs and say like, hey, what's going on? This is what we're doing here. I would like to get suggestions what's going on over here. So just collaborating and making us a more open process is something that we can do better to represent some of the underlying communities that don't have representation. And I think that as High School Democrats America, as we continue to grow, we also need to keep our eye open all communities within High School Democrats America.
Thank you, Eric. Next we have Elmadine. All right, looks like Suri has a question.
Thank you. All right. Okay. So how will you effectively, sorry, let me go back. How will you effectively facilitate and strengthen the connection between HSDA state chairs and their respective state party chairs all across the states, ensuring coordinated efforts and support for democratic initiatives? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Suri. And let me introduce myself. My name is Almadine. For the past year, I've been helping raise Missouri high school Democrats from the ground up, and having those oh gosh, sorry. Having those state party connections is important to state chapters, because not only gives them a guidance, but it also gives them a support system within their state. And how I will facilitate those connections between state chapters and state parties is utilizing the DNC to help us find those state party chairs or state party staff, and I also want to highlight the work that state chapters do in HSDA, and if we make a successful connection and provide them the opportunities that state parties can utilize HSDA for, such as volunteering or canvassing. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Now we're moving on to our communication director candidates, and we'll be starting with Aji. Are you here?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
No worries.
Okay.
All right, Suri, you may ask your question.
Thank you. So I just wanted to quickly ask, given the diverse backgrounds and needs of HSDA members across different states and regions, how do you plan to tailor your communication strategies to ensure that they're accessible and relevant to all members, including those from rural or limited access to digital sources?
Yeah, so I think, hey guys, I'm Aji. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a rising senior here in North Carolina. I think that's a very important part of my platform. I want to make sure that every single member has access to every single resource available to them. And I want every single caucus, state, local chapter to be able to present their opportunities that they have for their members, which means I want to start a weekly newsletter written by me, but contributed by all of HSDA to make those opportunities basically listed every Sunday at 8 a.m. or something like that for members to use. So this means that state chairs and caucus leaders and local chairs and regional directors can submit information to me, and I will put it in the weekly newsletter. This also means that we can celebrate the accomplishments of all of our members. So if some rising ninth grader from Montana just got an internship on a local campaign, I want to highlight that. I want to make sure that all of our members are celebrated, that all of our opportunities are equitably presented, and that we can just make that aspect of communication a little more diverse and accessible. Similarly, which I've learned from some campaigns just now, I really want to make it language accessible. If I find that there is a huge need for a Spanish newsletter, then I'll work with our fluently Spanish members to get that translated effectively and to get that distributed effectively. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Ava. Is Ava here? No. Tate. Is Tate here? No? All right. Next is Rishita. Are you here?
Hi, yeah, I'm here.
All right. Looks like Blake has a question. So go ahead, Blake.
All right. Hi, Rashida. How are you committed to increasing and maintaining HSDA's communications output when it comes to like emails or to Progressive Teen or the podcast? How are you committed to that?
So yeah, hi everyone. My name is Rashida. I live in Central New Jersey, and I've been a part of HSTA since my freshman year. I've served on my local chapter's executive board, and I'll be continuing to do that next year. And I'm also the Northeast social media director. So to answer your question, I do think communication is the biggest part of not only HSDA but any organization. And I think obviously as the manager of the Progressive Teen publication, it's really important to get the word out not only about that newsletter but also like the podcast and multimedia. So obviously this is like a really unique and interesting part of our organization. Very few like advocacy organizations do even have like this opportunity, but like for writers and everything. But I don't think it's seen as something that's very prevalent to like new members and people who don't really know much about like the organization itself. So I think I really do want to publicize this by again bringing back the like newsletter for members to get updated. I also really want to use like new social media platforms that HSDA isn't really active on right now to advertise multimedia and all the other unique programs that HSDA has. So this could be like TikTok and YouTube, which I know obviously on YouTube we like do post a few videos that like every year we post obviously like Q&As, the town halls, etc. But I think it's really important and valuable to post like update videos from the executive board. I would want to compile these videos by getting a few like updates for new members from the executive board members, like having a video and then editing them together to show new members that the executive board is like fully accessible, open to answering questions. And I also really want to just publicize these things more on the national Instagram. So this could be through using like the Q&A feature and just having more activity with like Instagram stories. And I do think I do have experience with like journalism and writing for newsletters. That's something I just enjoy doing and everything. So I do know how to like get the word out about like HSDA events and things like that in like an appropriate and efficient manner. So I not only want to like publicize our multimedia, but I also want to publicize other parts about HSDA in the multimedia, like having guest speakers on podcasts and interviews and articles and things like that. So that's how I would make the multimedia a bigger part of HSDA as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Blake. Blake, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Looks like Johans has a question for you. So go ahead.
Hey Blake, so I was wondering what specific, strategies, communication strategies that you're committed to per se to ensure we increase membership, across the nation, rural states, every sort of state out there. How are you committed? What strategies do you have in mind? Thank you.
Well, thanks for the question. So I'll start by giving some background by myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Blake. I'm from Southern California. I'm a rising senior, and I hold many leadership positions within my school and the community. So as to your question, I am committed to increasing messages and outreach to communities. I feel like increasing like posts on Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media platforms, like creating like a broadcast channel so we could send messages to all our followers, and also by increasing messages in the Slack, and also by emails. A key aspect of my platform is restarting monthly newsletters, as my fellow candidates to the position have also said. So yeah, it's a key aspect. But as to maintaining outreach, that's going to be important, especially leading into November in the election. And so yeah, I am committed to that. Sorry guys, my dog's barking. But yeah, I'm committed to maintaining, increasing outreach within the community, rural, everywhere in the country. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Blake. And that concludes the communication directors candidates. And now we're moving on to the programs directors, starting with Amanda. Amanda, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Looks like Matthew has a question for you. So go ahead, Matthew.
Hi, Amanda. So currently the summit coordinator is a member of the programs team. How will you as programs director help to coordinate summit and make summit 2025 the best it can be?
Hi. So I could use my experiences from having been the national outreach director for No More Books and my work in policy for the Youth Climate Advocacy Network to somehow like implement the exploration of certain issues, like related to climate change or like gun violence while you're at Summit. I also hope on getting in contact with organizations and maybe even legislatures to kind of like fundraise money so that we can make Summit more accessible to a wider amount of people because currently last time I remember the cost to go was about like $500 and that isn't really accessible to a lot of people, including people who, live in rural areas or have certain life circumstances going on. I also hope on implementing a virtual version of Summit so that way, if someone's unable to go because, of whatever reason, they're still able to, like learn and gain something from the summit by doing it virtually. Did that answer your question?
All right. Thanks, Amanda. Next we have Johans. Johans, are you ready?
Yes.
Looks like Ronak has a question for you.
Yeah, Johan. So my question for you is, probably as a seasoned member of High School Democrats, you know that local chapters are really the backbone of our organization. So my question for you is, as a programs director, how do you hope to support those local high school chapters around the nation?
Thank you for the question, Bronak. Quick introduction about myself. I'm Johan Spadiel, and I'm running to be your next programs director. And I'm a rising senior right now, and I've been committed to HSDA for more than 3 years now. I joined as a rising freshman, and my idea behind running for this position is when I first joined this organization, I felt just a little bit lost because despite having such a vibrant organization that we have, we sometimes lack just streamlining the process for our members. That was my main reason behind running for programs. And to answer your question, Ronak, as program director, I'm committed to no matter what happens, getting this program started. It's called HSDA's Got Your Back. And what that program really does is, end of the day, the reason why I want to advocate for this program is because I take an active part in this organization. It's called First Racket, right? And what First Racket does is that we basically host tennis tournaments to raise donations and funds for kids out in Angola, right? Which is a great cause. And what First Racket has been able to accomplish is that no matter what happens, I'm a state director for that organization. No matter what happens, that they're able to understand that financial aspect of leading an organization can sometimes be a problem. And as a prior chapter president myself, I can understand that many of our many of our local chapter members, presidents, and multiple of my friends as well, they can't get a chapter started because they don't have the funds necessary. So no matter what happens, this program, HSDA's Got Your Back, is totally specialized, just focused on our members and local chapters itself. Something I'd like to add on to that. I truly believe our organization, we have HSDA, High School Democrats of America, only because of our members, right? And your question is much more membership oriented. I'm committed to our members. I understand HSDA would not exist if it weren't for our members. So kind of utilizing on that fact, I want to make sure that I host one-on-one calls with our members and, focusing on that program of HSDA's Got Your Back and ensuring no matter what happens, that on the leadership board, they've got Johans on that leadership board, and they can reach out to Johans to ensure no matter what happens, Johans is there for them. Thank you, Ronak. Thank you, everyone. Vote Johans.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Matthew. Matthew, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Does anyone have a question for Matthew? Looks like Ronak has a question.
Yeah, Matthew. So as programs director, can you just tell me what's the one biggest program you want to implement, and how do you plan to go about implementing that?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. So a little bit about me first. My name is Matthew Brown. I've served as a member of the programs team for the last year as task force coordinator. This was a completely new initiative. So me, Hannah, and the rest of the programs team helped develop it from 0 task forces. We now have 6. So I'm going to use this experience to help grow more programs. Key part of my campaign is really trying to engage HSDA members outside of just the election season by adding an advocacy director and a legislative director to ensure that HSDA members are able to get involved in the initiatives that they want to get involved in. As task force coordinator and in my conversations with so many HSDA members, I've really seen such a vibrant want for HSDA members to get involved in legislation and in the advocacy space. So I work with these 2 positions to help increase HSDA's awareness of current legislation, work with our communications director to help promote these new programs and HSDA's presence in the legislative field, and work on a multilingual engagement committee to ensure that our programming and our communication is accessible for all members. English, Spanish, native language, French, all members are important to me. And I think that it's our local leaders and our local chapters that are the lifeblood of HSDA. That's why I want to have monthly calls with our local chapter leaders. So on your question about engaging in new programs. For me, it's all about engagement, improvement, and growth for HSDA through a legislative director, an advocacy director, multilingual engagement committee, and calls with local chapter leaders. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Finally, we have our development director candidates. Is Sahasra here? Nope. Bella? No. Kel?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. Looks like Marcus has a question.
Hi. So first off, from what I've seen from your election packet, you look like an amazing candidate. I just wanted to know, so what's unique about your campaign compared to others?
Thanks so much, Marcus. To introduce myself, hi, I'm Kel. I'm currently the vice chair of the Texas branch for HSDA. I really kind of love the community, but one of the things that's unique about my campaign is I'm kind of drawing off my experience from being vice chair. One of my biggest promises is to provide more opportunities. I came from a school that, didn't have a lot of a bunch of opportunities. It was kind of very urban, wasn't in the richest region. And one thing that I learned from, being at that school is that one of the amazing things about HSDA while I've been here is the amount of opportunities that are provided, the amount of internships, the amount of programs that you can join. And that's something that's kind of unique about my development director is that I want to focus on making sure that elections are seamless throughout HSDA, but I also want to kind of branch off of that to provide other opportunities to other kids to make sure that, they have the resources available to go out and be as successful as they want to be. I've also worked on legislation with a representative in our area, and I know how impactful it can be and how amazing it is when your goals and dreams and ambitions come together. I'm working on one to increase public school funding for Texas schools. So that was something that was very passionate to me and that I thought was really unique. And I want to give that opportunity to other wonderful HSDA members, especially ones in rural regions or ones in urban communities that don't necessarily have the resources required. And that's one of the beautiful things about HSDA is the amount of opportunities. And so I just want to expand on those programs and make sure that, kids come here because they want their dreams to be accomplished. And I want to help members achieve whatever goal that they want to. So thank you so much for the question.
Thank you. Next we have Brody. Is Brody here? No. Is Arvind here? No. All right. Well, that concludes our town hall then. Thank you all for coming and listening and answering questions as well. Yeah, the polls open on July 14th, so looking forward to the voting season. Yeah. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you